agents here and agents tuning in on our Facebook network group, or if you're watching this as the replay on YouTube. I am Olivier Lewis, broker owner of the Cranford office. And if you haven't met me yet, connect with me on social. Thank you for attending our think tank. And if you ever have any suggestions or things you'd like us to cover, please let us know. Today, we will be talking about sellers that have nowhere to go. Not too many of us in here today, but anyone face that challenge where you have a listing appointment or talk to a seller, but because they don't see any inventory, they're a little nervous? Yep. All right. So that's a common challenge. And I think it starts with some of the basics that we've always said, which is sending out the pre-listing package. And you may say, well, what does that have to do with sellers finding inventory? It's important to send out a pre-listing package because it allows your listing appointment to be all about the seller. You don't have to talk about your marketing and all this other stuff that you've already delivered in the listing package. So when you're there, you can uncover what their needs are, where they're looking to go, why, their motivation for selling, make it 100% about them. And that gives you more time to spend on just that objection, because that's a very big objection. But if you have to go over your marketing, go over everything, it just makes the appointment long. And I don't know about you guys, but there's a certain cutoff point on listing appointments when you start to get the glazed eyes from the sellers, or they start, and you can feel it where they're like, let's wrap this up, or they're like, oh, well, just what's the price, what's the commission? So you don't want the appointment to go above that point, or I'm sorry, beyond that point. And part of it is send the pre-listing appointment package so that you can just focus on the seller at that hour when you are together and not let it overrun and then you can't handle their objections. So that allows you to make the appointment about them. And a lot of agents glaze over the, I can't find a place to go. And what they'll say is, oh, I'll refer you an agent if it's out of state, or I'll find you something, just tell me what you look for. But you really have to turn into the buyer agent. You really have to consult with them, not just about their listing, but it needs to transition into solving that particular problem. If you don't, yeah, they know you're a great listing agent, they got your package, they see how many homes you've sold, your pricing was accurate. That's not the objection. You could be the best listing agent, but if they have nowhere to go, most sellers have the mindset that I'm not going to go pay rent when I've had a mortgage for 20 years or 10 years or however long they've been in their home. And also, I'm not going to be homeless. No one's going to force me out of my house, and I'm not going to settle. So there's a lot there that you have to really focus on, and you have to switch the focus of the appointment from just getting their listing to solving their buyer needs in regards to, you got to find them something. So you offer solutions. And I know we like to just throw our terms around. Oh, you do a home sale contingency. It's easy. You won't have to sell the house if you don't buy a house. That goes right over their head. That's our terms, home sale contingency. They don't really understand it. Take time to explain what that is. We're going to put it on the market. You can entertain offers. We're going to advertise that you will not move forward and close unless you find suitable housing, right? Or however you want to explain it. But really break it down to them. So even if you get an offer, even if you sign it, they cannot force you to sell it. No one will force you to close. You will not be homeless. You will not be forced out of your home unless you find a house. Do you understand that? And getting the okay, seeing if they have questions, that's what you got to do. Now, oh, we'll just do a home sale contingency. It's easy. I do it all the time. You won't have to sell the house. They still don't understand it. Offering them a simultaneous close. Do you need to close same day? Do you need to pull all the equity out of this to buy the other home? You need to find out what their position is, what their situation is, and explain to them how the process works between the simultaneous close, between the home sale contingency. Talk about use and occupancy. Saying use and occupancy to a seller is like saying it to a brand new agent. What? What's that, right? Don't just explain it that way. Explain what that means, how it works, how it benefits them. Does anyone know here, for a seller asking for use and occupancy on their home that they're selling? The buyer's an FHA buyer. Does anyone know how many days before the FHA buyer has to move in? 60 days. Wow, the whole room knows. I had to confirm this yesterday at our first team mortgage meeting because I knew I was going to talk about it today. So you guys are a step ahead of me in that. But yes, 60 days. So even if FHA buyers buying the home, the seller can do a U&O up to 60 days, right? 59 days because someone's going to technically challenge me on that. But those are options. To explain that to the seller if they need more time to update the home that they're buying or fix something up, or if it's a new construction in North Carolina and the completion date is XYZ. So giving them those explanations and not just saying, oh, we'll do a U&O, right? It's muscle memory, knee-jerk reaction for us to just say these things. And it's our terms and jargon. They do not know what these things really mean. So it's on us to break it down. So 60 days for FHA, and what does that mean for conventional? You can go past 60 days, right? Because there's no 60-day rule. You can do a 90-day U&O, and I've seen 90-day U&Os for certain circumstances. And in a market like this where there's less inventory, I would assume most buyers will be willing to do a 90-day if that gets them the right house, right? Because the seller is paying for it. You can do short-term rentals. Anyone here ever look for short-term rental in the MLS and have a hard time finding it?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, well, Airbnb. Airbnb. You can do weekly, monthly, there's other solutions for short-term rentals if your seller's willing to move out of the house and do transitional living until they find someplace, or if their new home is going to be built X day and they need a temporary place to live. In our area, unless you're down the shore, there are not a lot of short-term rentals, but there is Airbnb. There's companies like Avenue that have select locations where they rent temporary or long-term furnished apartments. It comes with a premium on price, but there are solutions to this. So offer solutions, explain to them. But you have to simultaneously work on getting their listing, getting the home prepared, and really figuring out what they're looking for, where they're looking, and solving that problem. Because you can nail the listing appointment as far as the marketing, the price, what you're going to do for their home. But if you walk out of there and they're not confident that they could find something, they are not moving forward. So it has to be a simultaneous, and that listing appointment becomes a combined buyer consultation / listing appointment, because you have to satisfy that need or they won't move forward. And this is pre-pandemic. There's a lot of agents I know calling expires that just weren't motivated because they had nowhere to go. And that's true. So if you don't solve that problem, you will still have that problem. With that problem, they will not move forward. Some sellers, are moving out of state. If they are moving out of state, don't just refer them an agent in Arizona, Florida, wherever they're going, and say, oh, such and such is a RE/MAX agent, they're great, or you know someone from a personal relationship, I'm going to connect you, they're great. You have to be a little bit more involved if you want their listing. Because that agent might say, oh, they're unrealistic, I'll put them on a drip email, set them up for auto alerts, and not really help. Or the agent might say, well, they're all the way in New Jersey. Unless they're here looking at properties, I'm not going to go crazy for them, right? So you need to really connect and make sure you're steering the ship between the buyer being able to find something wherever it is that they're looking, as well as preparing their home for sale. But you have to take a little bit more control to make sure whoever you refer the person to out of state really is trying to help them and is on top of it and is constantly communicating to them. And sometimes that means them taking a visit to just look at homes to start the process and really get more engaged. And that's what it takes to get them to list. But if you're not in touch with the agent to find out, hey, I sent them great inventory, they really need to come down. Sometimes they need to hear it from someone else to reinforce it, to get them down so that they can list the home. So you have to create urgency sometimes with the sellers, and when they're out of state, that's how you create urgency. And if they're in state, depending on their situation. So has a seller ever said to you guys, yeah, but if I wait, I'm going to get more money for my home, so there's no urgency, I'll just wait? right? Because the market's going up. And a lot of sellers are like, I'm not in a rush. I'll just wait. Market keeps going up. I make more. Then you guys will probably say, yeah, but then the new home is going to cost you more too. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's right. So it's a wash. Doesn't matter. Well, I'll tell you what does matter. The rates. The rates matter. Because if it's a move-up buyer that they're selling a 3-bedroom, buying a 4-bedroom, or they're selling a $300,000 house, buying a $600,000 house, that difference of rate that we all saw happen from in the 3s to in the 5s. For those of you that attended our training last Thursday, it was on a $300,000 loan, it was a $400-something difference. So, okay, let's call the prices flat. You're right. Yeah, you'll get more money when you're selling your home to balance out the fact that you're going to pay more for the next home. So let's call that even. But then the more you wait, the rate goes up, and that kills you. Because now on 300 grand, there was a $400 difference. So that's how you create urgency with them. Like, okay, you're right. Let's call the houses flat. But if the rate continues to go up, which is projected to, then you're going to lose on the rate. So don't wait, because it's going to cost you more per month, which you're going to write a check every month or automatic debit out of your account every month. That's going to be hundreds of dollars more when you could have saved those hundreds of dollars more by starting the process sooner, not allowing the rates to go up. So that's how you create urgency when they talk about the market going up. Another thing that's important for for sellers that can't find inventory, they are more likely, if you have the conversation, to do a fixer-upper. Why? Anyone can guess why? Like a seller that's moving would more likely do a fixer-upper than a first-time buyer?
Well, they have more money, cash on hand when they sell, and then they're previous homeowners, so they understand what they're getting into.
Bingo. They know they can change a home. Most people have done some changes to their home, right? So they're used to it, and they kind of know what they want now. I lived in a home for 7 years, and I didn't like this. I wish it was this way. I would change this, and I don't want a peninsula anymore. I want an island. Like, they know what they want, and they know how to customize it. They've probably dealt with a contractor or two, right? So it's easier to convince a homeowner versus a first-time buyer to, hey, there's no inventory. We can create inventory. You want this 4-bed, 2.5-bath colonial? Let's look at some ranches that we can add a level to. And as long as it's within your budget, two, you're going to have some equity built in versus going and buying a newer, already renovated 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath colonial. 3, they're probably going to be more comfortable with it. And I say this from experience. One of our agents just moved. I don't remember how long in the first house, maybe six years, roughly 5 years, maybe even less. And 203K, second house, moved to Cranford, 203K. And second time was a lot easier. She's an agent, has access to all the inventory, couldn't find what she wanted, had to create it, and an extensive 203K. So we often overlook that renovation product that gets them what they want. And the homeowners are, to me, much easier to convince than a first-time buyer who has no contractors, no idea, no design concept, doesn't know what they want, hasn't owned a home. Like, that's tough. We do it, but we don't really offer that up to repeat buyers who are our sellers. So look at creative options. Of course, you can source inventory from other sources that we've talked about at different meetings, but look at all the options for them. Sourcing inventory, 203Ks, etc. And last but not least, when the seller says, you know what, that's all good, I don't want to do a renovation, I want brand new construction, or I want this only, or I'm looking at a townhome. Obviously, you can't add a level and create your own townhome scenario. But when that happens and they're not available, there's no inventory available, don't just say, well, I'll send you listings, and when something comes up, position it so that what happens if the right home comes up, townhome, condo, adult community, home or on a lake, and you are not ready to buy it and purchase it because you have a contingency because your home's not on the market. Oh, well, yeah, we probably would lose it. Well, let's position you to look at some options. What if you could pull a home equity line of credit and you could have the down payment available? You don't draw on it and pull the money out, so you're not paying on it, but you have access to the down payment. So if the home comes up, it doesn't have to be contingent on your current home, right? So now there's no contingency, clean offer, ready to go. And whenever that home comes up, they can pull the trigger. And that sometimes makes the difference to them. I don't want the pressure of putting it on the market and this, and then what sometimes happens is you do put it on the market with a contingency. They try to get offers accepted. Offers don't get accepted, and they're like, "Screw this, let's stay put, take it off the market," which is we've all had happen, right? So, figuring out solutions, setting up a game plan so that this doesn't continue to happen, right? What happens if we find the right house? Can you pull money from somewhere else? Can you pull the equity out? What options do you have? Not a refinance where they go pull out 100 grand and now they're paying interest on 100 grand, but we have other options. Talk to First Team Mortgage about home equity lines of credit. It won't cost them much. Maybe there's an annual maintenance fee, and of course the cost of pulling the money, but they're not gonna have payments until they actually draw the money, which maybe they never draw the money, right? Or maybe they do, and it allows them to buy the home, put theirs on the market, etc. There's bridge loans. There's all types of creative ways to finance it without the contingency, but also you have to think outside the box with these sellers. So that's my spiel, but any questions from you guys on sellers not listing because they don't have anywhere to go? Okay.
With my Parker deal,
Okay.
which is, so they really wanted Saida's home, but their home wasn't on the market yet. And I said, I know this agent, she's not gonna accept your offer because we have no backup plan. So they're like, well, put in the offer anyway. I said, no, I can't put in the offer because of X, Y, and Z. So then finally got it, with Michaela put in the offer, got it accepted, but of course Saida's home is no longer available, so now they're like, okay, we don't wanna sell our home because we really want Lake Street.
Wanted that home. So 2 things there. One, I would have wrote the offer to begin with.
Mhm.
The same reason you do it to a regular buyer that doesn't have a home to sell, they need to get the no sometimes to believe you. It's the according to who rule that I say so often. They don't believe you. They need to hear it from someone else. So this, you know what's going to happen, but they need to see it play itself out and then listen to you. Just like the buyers, not this market or sometimes this market that you're like, hey, you got to go at or above, and they're like, no, come in 30 grand lower. And you know what? I used to tell agents, oh, I don't want to. It's a waste of time. It's not a waste of time. 1, it's your job, but 2, they need the rejection for them to see their way doesn't work.
Yeah.
And what they thought, you never know. Well, here's the you never know scenario. It doesn't work. There's a no and you never know. So sometimes they need the rejection. And 2, you always want your hat in the ring, right? Because if something happened to that deal, you have an offer, it's easier for the agent to go back to you. It's easier for the agent to tell the current deal, hey, if you don't accept our no to your home inspection issues, we got a backup offer. Right? It just puts your hat in the ring, keeps things active, but you always want to present that offer because now they could a little bit say, well, if you would have presented the offer, who knows? Look how fast we got our home under contract.
Yeah.
And they could point the finger at you. So in the future, you always want to present it. Get that rejection and just say, see, so now we need to list, and now that will create urgency to list.
Yeah. I mean, I've been talking to Saida like every day, and she's like, no, I don't want.
Well, deal make close. But say, what did you like about Lake Street or whatever the street is? And let's find something else similar. Or let's create it. Or is it have to be this subdivision or this neighborhood? Now you gotta go source another listing from the neighbors.
Yeah.
But that you gotta figure out what was it about that was gonna trigger them to move, that now they don't wanna move anywhere else.
Yeah, it's walking distance to their own home, so they want.
Same neighborhood?
Yeah.
So now you gotta scour the neighborhood for something, and you have a buyer. It's a big difference of calling the neighborhood or knocking on doors saying, would you sell? I could get you a buyer versus I have a legitimate buyer that will write you an offer today.
Okay.
Anyone else have the challenge of sellers not listing because they have nowhere to go? No? All right, let me see if I have any comments. I do not, so I will wrap this up. Thank you all for attending, and we will see you on the next Think Tank. Take care.